For this next video, we are going to add in the beams. We'll start out by going into the modeling, and as that is loading up, we are going to look at sheet S2 on your project 1 set of drawings, and we're going to start at floor framing plan at 112 foot 0. So as your model opens up here, we are going to open up our erection view 112 foot 0. So as you can see on my top of my screen, my elevation is 112 foot 0, my view is 112 foot 0. So as we add in these beams here, we will go over to our member add icon here, or again you can go up to the top on your pull down menus, member add, and here it's already on the beam icon. Again, if you need to, you can click on the arrow to get what you are looking for, member add beam. Okay, so adding in beams, you need to pick 2 points. So let's start by looking at the beam on grid line A. There's a beam 18 by 35 on grid line A that goes from grid line intersection of A and 1 to A and 3. So my button bindings is asking me for a point location for the first point of the beam. So again, use an intersection of construction line. I'm going to pick the intersection of A and 1, left button to locate it. Now you can see on the top of my screen it's saying locate second point. And I'm on my intersection of construction line here again, so now as I move up you can see it snap into intersection of construction line points. In my case here, I want to stay on grid line A and the intersection of A and 3. So I'm going to hit my left button to locate again. And now it brings up my beam edit window. So again, there's a lot of information here, a lot of information we're going to skip for this class. So first thing you're going to do when you're adding in a beam is we're going to change our section size starting at the top of the screen. Right now it's a HSS 24 by 12 by 3/4. We want that to be a W 18 by 35. So we'll type that in. Again, your option, you can type it in or you can pick your file cabinet here and select your size. So 18 by 35. On the columns, one thing I did not note was as you were adding in your columns, for example here on my screen here, there's a 8 by 31, and in brackets it has a 7. That is a member number that SDS2, a unique number that SDS2 assigns to that member. As I'm putting in this beam here, you can see section size we put in, piece mark, it's blank. On your drawings, when this plan was created for this course, if the piece marks are showing up on your plan, so for example this beam here, W 18 by 35 is a 8B2, do not enter the piece mark as shown on your plans. Again, this was a sample job project that was made for this course, and the details have been detailed already. So SDS2 assigns that piece mark. After we process, it'll create a piece mark. It'll be B underscore and then a certain number. As we get into the detailing portion of this course, we will go over how to change them piece marks. So make sure you do not enter any information into that piece mark field. Okay, so 18 by 35, I'm going to skip over the piece mark. The material grade A992 is correct, we're going to leave that. And all this information right here we're going to skip. So then we get to our left end and right end settings. Our top of steel is at 112-foot zero. SDS2 recognizes the plan view you're in, and our plan view is 112, and it recognizes the elevation that plan view is at, so our elevation's at 112. So quick way to put in beams if you have a bunch of them at 112-foot zero elevation is to create a plan view at that elevation, and that is why we created plan view 112-foot zero. So my end information comes in correct. My web rotation is web vertical. We're going to leave that as is. Standard detail, we're going to come back to this, but I'll show you some examples how to use standard detail. One example that we'll use is if you lower a bunch of loads and you want the engineer to verify something, we can create a standard detail and attach that to this detail, so to this member, and then when that member is detailed, that standard note will show up on your member detail. So that is where you would add that standard detail. Input connection type. For this course right now we're going to leave everything auto standard. We'll come back later and change some of the connections, but our auto standard connections are set up. So your typical connection that you're going to use on your job, if 99% of them are clip angles, you would go in your auto standard connection setup and set it up as clip angle. Again, in this course we're going to leave them all as auto standard, and in the next course we'll show you how to change your auto standard connections. So for this one here, auto standard, left and right are good. Then the next option is connection specifications. If it's on auto standard, you can't change that. If we had changed this connection type to something other than auto standard, one of these options, then you would be able to change your connection specifications. Again, since we're going to leave it auto standard, when we do change this, we'll come back to this connection specifications. Your setbacks, we're going to leave as is. Again, we'll come back to this later, but leave it on automatic, and SDS2 will calculate that setback out automatically. If you change this and the next member you input, you want it to be automatic, you need to go back and change that option. Otherwise it'll remember the last beam you put in. Moment connection, there will be one of them on this project. When we come to that, I'll show you that option. And then your loads. Loads we're going to leave on automatic. Some of the loads we will change because the connections will fail, and that would be a situation where we're going to use that standard detail to have the engineer verify it. So leave all the loads on auto. So hit OK here, and you can see that beam came into my screen here. So now let's put in the next beam. Since this job here doesn't have a lot of options to repeat, there is no other beam identical to that with identical size and identical spacing. So let's go to grid line B and 1, and we'll left click locate, and then B and 2, left click locate. That is a 18 by 35, so this is an example of trying to put in all the 18 by 35s so you don't have to keep changing your section size. Your end elevation is 112-foot zero, and now you can see my right end elevations information disappeared. That's because my window is not big enough. If I move my window over, you can see that the information shows up. So you may have to widen out your window by grabbing the side and pulling. So 112, 112, leave it on auto standard again, and as we scroll down to the bottom here, the loads leave on auto standard. Okay, so that's it for the 18 by 35s. Let's grab this next one here at 2 and B, left button locate, and 3 and B, left button locate. That is a W16 by 36. Elevation at 112 is good. And again, we're going to leave it on auto standard. Hit OK. Okay, now let's put in from grid line A and 1. Locate here, and to B and 1, locate at the intersection there. W12 by 26. Again, 112 elevation, because it's not noted on your drawings to be anything other than 112. And we're going to leave everything auto standard, auto load. Now, that was on grid line 1 between A and B. On grid line 3 between A and B, it's the same spacing, it's the same size, same load, same elevation. So here's an example. My first point I picked over here is A and 1, and the second point was up here. So now if I go over to grid line 3, and my middle button says repeat, repeating off from grid line A and 3 will repeat the column or that beam from that point up to this point. If I would pick this point here, it's going to repeat it from there and going up on the screen from towards grid line B.7. So here, highlight intersection of A and 3, middle button repeat, and that beam came in. It's critical that the beam has to be the same spacing. So in this case, 15 foot from grid line A to B, and the same size, same elevation. So now we repeated that beam. Now for the beams between grid line 1 and 3, they're all W12 by 16s, and they're 4 foot on center. We don't have any points to snap to, so we're going to right click here to exit out of our command, and then we're going to go to our construction line add icon over here, left button to select that, and then our status line says add a construction line. My left button says locate, and I'm going to highlight the base off a construction line. So basing off from this construction line, left button locate, and dimension from construction line 4 foot 0. Repeat factor, I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces or 6 times, and hit add, and then exit. Now you can see I have construction lines based off from that grid line there. Now I can add in them beams. So I'm going to do member add, locate, intersection here to intersection here. W12 by 16. Elevation 112 is good. Leaving on auto standard for connection and auto standard for loads. And we're going to hit OK. Now, here's where you use your repeat. We have construction lines there. My middle button to repeat, and again I'm on intersection of construction line. So repeat, 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 and repeat. And right button to return and exit out of that command. So that takes care of the beams on 112 elevation from A to B. Now let's add in the remaining beams at 112. Now I've got all them construction lines on my screen that I added in for the previous beams. If we want to get rid of them, we can go to Model, Construction Lines, Erase All, or CX. So I'm going to go off there, I'm going to hit CX, Erase All Construction Lines, yes. Okay, so them are gone. Now it makes my screen a little bit clearer. Now let's add in the beams from grid line, let's go from grid line B and 1 to C and 1. So do member add, intersection here to the intersection here. And that is a W21 by 44. Again, we're going to leave it at 112 auto standard. Hit OK. Then we'll go to grid line 2 from B to C. So B2, and that beam goes to C2. That's a W16 by 36. Hit OK. Then we have a beam on grid line C. From C and 1. So right there, actually I'm going to hit right button, return to exit out. There again, you can see I accidentally hit repeat, and I put a beam on my screen here. So to get rid of that beam, if we highlight it there and hit the delete key on your keyboard, it'll get rid of that member. Go back into our member add, intersection there to intersection here at 2, W12 by 26 for the size. And on that member there, if you see on your sheet S2, it says C equals a half. Now, if you see that, we can add in rolling operations to a member. If we go under rolling operations here, it says none. You have different options here. Camber annotation is what we're going to use, and camber annotation, and then 1/2 is what it's saying. C equals 1/2. So we'll add that in, and what that'll do is when we detail our shop drawing, it'll note that there should be a 1/2 inch camber in that beam. The remaining information we'll leave as is, so hit OK. And you can see on your plan here, it even put the C equals a 1/2 right away. Okay, so now that is all the members we can put in that go from column to column or grid line to grid line. So now we need to add in some more construction lines. So I'm going to right click to return out of here. Construction line add command. Base off from that construction line. And if you go to your plans, you do not have a dimension there. So let's go from grid line C, let's come down -3'9", because on your screen up from that point is positive and down is negative, so -3.9. Hit add and exit out there. You can see it added in this construction line here. Now let's add in a couple more so we can do a few of these at once. So let's go construction line add, based off from grid line 1, and let's go 6'6". So to the right of that line is positive, so 6'6", and hit add. And then the next space is 6'0", add. And then the next space is 5'6", which we already have that construction line in there, because a grid line 2 is also considered a construction line. So we can exit out there. Then you'll see from grid line B, so I'm still in my construction line command. You can see up here it still says construction line, so it's asking me to locate again. So locate off from B, going up on the screen, positive 2'4", is a dimension to the first C8 by 11.5. And then there's a 3-foot zero space off from that last construction line. And then a 2-foot 5.5 off from that last one. And that gets us all the construction lines we need to add in the remaining members. So let's add in the remaining members. So now we'll right click to return all that command. Now it's asking me to select something or select the command. So we'll select add a beam. Let's add in the 12 by 26 that's 3'9" below grid line C, so right here, intersection there to intersection here at 2 line. W12 by 26 for the size. Now this one here, you can see it says elevation 111'10". We're at elevation 112, so it comes in at 112. So here I can just type in 111'10". And you gotta change it on both ends if we want that beam to be flat. So 111'10". Now, remember the last beam we put in, we had that camber in there, and it remembers that. So camber annotation, turn that to none. Hit OK. Now you can see that beam when it came in, it says -2. We are at 112'0", so that beam is down 2 inches, which brings it down to 111'10". So another quick way to verify that you have it in correct. Now let's add in the beams 6'6" north of grid line 1. So that's intersection here to intersection here. And that's a W16 by 26. And this one has that camber in it again of a 1/2 inch. But this one is back at 112'0". So 112'0", 112'0". Everything else auto. Hit OK. The next beam 6 foot north of there is the same one. So highlight here at the intersection of B and that 6 foot line and middle button to repeat, and that beam comes in. Now let's add in the 16 by 26 from grid line 1 to the north, 4 foot 2.5 from grid line B.7, from there to there. W16 by 26. Change the annotation back to none. Hit OK. The next beam is a 14 by 22, continuing to the north. Hit OK. And the last beam to the north of that is a W12 by 16, W12 by 16, and OK. So now I'm gonna right click and return out there, so I'm out of that command. So now I still need to add in some channels here. So I'm gonna do member add. Intersection here to here, and that's a channel of C 8 by 11.5, and I'm gonna leave everything as is auto, and I'm gonna hit OK. Now if you zoom in, you can see this toe direction indicator here. In my case here, that channel I put in was the upper one to the west, and the direction of that toe is correct. So down here, when I put in this one here, I can't hit repeat. So I'm going to pick that point and that point. It's still a C by 11.5, but here, what I want to do is change my toe direction. So since it's a channel, it has a toe direction. So toe out, as you're looking at the screen, out away from you, or back in towards you. So toe in on this one. And now you can see that one there came in with the toe down. Okay, so now we right click out of that command, construction line, add, base it off from this beam here, and we'll go 1 foot 6, and then 3 foot 0. And we just have to add in a couple of channels here. So we'll go member add, intersection to intersection. Again, it's a C8 by 11.5. And as you are looking at that, the toe direction is out, pointing out away from the points you picked. From here to here, as you're looking at this, you're looking at it from the right hand side of your screen, looking towards the left. So it's in towards you. And we'll hit OK. We're going to right click to return out of here. And now we have all them beams in place. Okay, so finally let's go to open view, and let's go to 124 foot 0. And let's go to model, construction lines, erase all. And looking at S2, elevation 124 foot 0, your roof plan. We're going to put in the beam. Let's go member add. The beam from grid line A and 1, intersection there, to intersection of A and 3. It's a W16 by 26. The elevation says 123 9.5. Let's leave it at 124 foot 0 and auto standard and hit OK. Okay, so now I put that beam in, I put in the wrong elevation. So let's click on that, left click on it to select it, and then right click for menu, and let's pick move stretch members. Now it's asking you for a reference point. So intersection of construction line, you can pick any point you want here. And then for the second point, we want to go, we can't pick a second point here on the screen because it'll move it whichever direction we're going here. So let's pick your DX, DY offset. So I highlighted that locator. It's still asking me for a second point, so I've got the DXDY location icon selected, so now I'm going to hit my left button to locate using that DXDY, and it brings up your DXDY offset. So X direction, I'm not going to move it. Y direction, I don't want to move it, but my Z direction into the screen is negative, so let's go negative 2.5 and hit OK. And confirm move, yes. Now you can see my beam says it's down negative 2.5, which is 123 9.5. So that's the way you can move beams. Or you could have just double clicked on that beam and edited the elevation. Okay, so now we're at elevation 124 and at view 124. If I had multiple ones at that negative 2.5, what I could do is go to reference elevation, and instead of 124.0, type in 123 foot 9.5 and hit OK. Now you can see this beam here that had that negative 2.5, that disappeared because now we are at 123 9.5. And now if I go member add from B and 1, to BN2, my beam size is again a 16 by 26. My elevation is 123.9.5. You can see it came in correct because I'm actually at the elevation 123.9.5 in the model. So if you have multiple ones at a different elevation than you are currently at, quicker to change the elevation you are at and then put the members in. So here, let's leave everything auto, 16 by 26, hit OK. And then we have a beam from BN2 to BN3. Again, a 16 by 26 at that same 123.9.5. Hit OK. So that added in the remaining beams that are in plan view in flat. So that'll end this segment, and we will add in the remaining beams that are sloping and the columns that we did not put in the first segment of the columns.